Welcome back to Mindful Health Harbor, a place for us to explore well-being.
That's right.
And today, we're taking a deep dive into something called neurotheology. Have you
Okay.
heard of that?
I
It's
have.
kind of a cool concept.
Yeah.
And we're going to be looking at it through the lens of Dr. Andrew Newberg's work.
Okay.
He wrote a book, How God Changes the Brain.
Right.
And he also recently did a YouTube interview that we watched.
Cool.
Really, really interesting stuff. And, just to get us started, we're going to be talking about things like, can meditation actually make your brain bigger?
Okay.
We're going to be talking about what nuns and atheists have in common when it comes to brain activity.
Huh.
We're going to talk about something called the happy prison of the brain.
Interesting.
So lots of really cool stuff. I think one of the things that's so fascinating about Dr. Newberg's work is that he takes these kind of abstract concepts of spirituality and grounds them in science.
Right.
He shows us what's happening inside our brains when we engage in things like prayer or meditation.
Yeah, that's what's so cool about neurotheology is it sort of takes these abstract ideas and says like, hey, we can actually measure this stuff.
Exactly.
We can look at the brain and see what's happening.
Right, yeah.
And that's, I think that's what makes it so fascinating to so many people.
Yeah. And, he doesn't shy away from those kind of, maybe tougher questions.
Yeah.
Like, are religious people crazy?
Right.
And he points out that for the most part, religious people lead perfectly normal lives.
Yeah.
But their brains might be wired in a way that helps them perceive something that others don't.
Yeah.
Like it's like everyone's seeing the world through a different lens based on their own experience, their beliefs,
Yeah, it's like we're all looking through our own kind of custom-made pair of glasses. And so someone who's religious might have a pair of glasses that allows them to see a spiritual dimension that someone else might not even be aware of.
Yeah, and he even uses the analogy of like, some people having a built-in God lens
Right, exactly.
and some people don't.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it.
Yeah, but the point is, he's not trying to prove or disprove the existence of God or anything.
Yeah.
He's just showing us what happens in the brain during these experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things he talks about that I thought was super interesting is this concept of the happy prison of the brain.
The happy prison. Okay.
So basically, our brains create our own reality,
Okay.
right, based on the limited information that they get.
Mm-hmm.
And they filter out anything that doesn't fit our pre-existing beliefs.
So it's like our brain is trying to protect us,
Right.
keep us comfortable
Yeah.
by kind of keeping us in this little bubble of our own beliefs.
Yeah.
So even though it's happy, we might be missing out on a lot of other perspectives.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like we're all kind of stuck in these echo chambers inside our own heads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like we're only hearing the voices that already agree with us.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about, it's a lot like social media algorithms
Oh, yeah.
that constantly feed you content that you already agree with.
Right, right. And that just reinforces your existing views.
Exactly.
It's like this self-perpetuating cycle.
Yeah. It's like no wonder it's so hard to talk about politics these days.
Right.
Everyone's trapped in their own happy prison of belief.
Yeah, it's like we're all living in our own little worlds.
Right.
And it's hard to bridge that gap.
Right. And that's, to me, this is where it really gets interesting.
Okay.
Because, he says we need to become aware of these mental filters
Right, right.
and actively try to get outside of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like actually seek out information that challenges our beliefs,
Exactly.
even if it makes us uncomfortable.
Yes, exactly. Because otherwise we risk getting stuck in these, echo chambers.
Right.
Unable to understand or empathize with people who see the world differently.
And that's a recipe for division and conflict.
Exactly.
So it's really important to be open to other perspectives.
Yeah. So how do we break free from this happy prison?
Right. That's the big question.
Well, Dr. Newberg seems to think that meditation might be a key.
Okay.
He talks about this really fascinating case study with a guy named Gus,
Okay.
who learned a specific type of meditation called Kirtan Kriya.
Kirtan Kriya. Okay. I'm not familiar with that one.
So it involves chanting, figure movements, and visualization.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a workout for your brain,
Right.
but specifically targets those areas involved in, focus, memory, emotional regulation.
So it's not just sitting there trying to clear your mind.
Right. It's like a very active form of meditation.
Interesting. Okay.
And after only 8 weeks of practicing this meditation for just 12 minutes a day, Gus showed some pretty remarkable changes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So like what kind of changes are we talking about?
So they did brain scans on him,
Okay.
and they saw increased activity in his frontal lobe,
Okay.
that part of the brain that is responsible for planning and decision-making.
Right, the executive function center.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his concentration and his memory improved.
Wow.
And he even reported feeling less anxious and depressed, even when he wasn't meditating.
Oh, that's interesting. So it wasn't just like a temporary mood boost, you know?
Exactly. It seemed to have a lasting impact on his brain and on his overall well-being.
That's pretty impressive. Just 12 minutes a day.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Studies have shown that long-term meditators, like people who've been meditating for years,
Mm-hmm.
actually have thicker brains.
Thicker brains, really?
Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
So it's a sign of increased neural connections and activity,
Oh, I see.
which is generally a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And some research even suggests that meditation might offer some protection against age-related cognitive decline.
Oh, wow.
And even diseases like Alzheimer's.
That's incredible.
It's like meditation is a brain-building activity,
Yeah.
similar to, how lifting weights builds muscle.
Right, right. Like you're actually strengthening your brain through this practice.
Exactly, yeah.
That's fascinating.
It's like it highlights the fact that our brains are constantly adapting and changing based on our experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Like neuroplasticity.
Exactly.
Our brains are like so amazing.
They really are.
Yeah. So just like we can train our bodies to be stronger and healthier,
Mm.
we can also train our minds to be more focused and resilient and compassionate.
It's like we have so much more control over our brains than we realize.
Right. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of training the mind, Dr. Newberg also studied Brazilian channelers who practice automatic writing.
Channelers, okay.
They believe that they're channeling messages from spirits.
Right.
Now, I know this might sound a little out there,
Yeah.
but bear with me. You know what's fascinating from a neuroscientific perspective is what happens in the brain during these channeling sessions.
Okay, yeah, what happens?
He found that their frontal lobes actually show decreased activity while they're writing,
Oh, wow.
which is so weird, right?
Yeah, because the frontal lobe is like the CEO of the brain.
Right.
It's responsible for all the higher level thinking.
Exactly. So how are they functioning, right?
Right.
If the CEO is off, like, taking a break,
Right.
it's interesting because decreased activity in that area might suggest like a shift in control, like a sense of something else is working through them,
Right.
like they describe.
Like they're not the ones in the driver's seat anymore.
Yeah.
It's like something else has taken over.
Right, exactly.
Interesting.
It's almost like they're entering this flow state,
Yeah.
right? Similar to a musician improvising or an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
They're not overthinking it, they're just letting it flow.
Right. They're just in the zone.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
And it highlights how these different practices can alter our brain states, right?
Mm-hmm.
And potentially open us up to different ways of experiencing the world.
Yeah, it's like we're expanding our possibilities
Right.
by tapping into these different states of consciousness.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
And this reminds me of another point that he makes
Okay.
about the brain's ability to construct our reality.
Right.
He uses this fascinating analogy of putting on a pair of glasses.
Okay.
He suggests that our brains are constantly filtering information
Mm-hmm.
and creating like a perceptual lens
Right.
through which we view the world.
Okay.
And this lens is shaped by our beliefs, our experiences, our expectations,
Right.
right? And just like putting on a different pair of glasses can change how we see things, engaging in these different practices,
Mm-hmm.
like meditation, like channeling,
Right.
can shift our brain states
Okay.
and alter our perception of reality.
So it's like we're choosing which lens we want to look through, depending on what we want to see or experience.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
are we simply changing our perception,
Right.
or are we actually tapping into something more fundamental?
Like, are we creating reality?
Yeah.
Or are we just perceiving it differently?
Right.
That's a big question.
That's the big question. And that's one that neurotheology is still grappling with.
Mm-hmm.
But what's so cool is that we're starting to have the tools to explore this question
Right.
in a more scientific and rigorous way.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Welcome back.
So, when we left off, we were talking about how these different practices can shift our brain states
Right.
and potentially, alter our perception of reality.
Uh-huh.
And you mentioned psychedelics, and Dr. Newberg actually touches on this in the interview.
Yeah.
It's a pretty controversial topic.
It is.
But he did this survey on intense spiritual experiences
Okay.
and found that a significant number of them were actually induced by psychoactive substances.
Right. And it's interesting because, people often think of spiritual experiences as being something that just happens to you spontaneously.
Yeah.
But this research suggests that maybe we can actually seek them out,
Right.
through certain practices or even substances.
Right. Like, who are we to say that a spiritually transformative experience that is facilitated by a substance
Right.
is any less valid than one that just happens spontaneously?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It raises all sorts of questions about the nature of consciousness.
Yeah.
And, what's real and what's not.
Right.
And the role of these substances in our spiritual exploration.
Exactly. And I think it's really important to note that he's not advocating for just like the reckless use of psychedelics.
Of course not.
He emphasizes the need for responsible use
Right.
and proper guidance and further research.
Absolutely safety first.
Yeah.
But he does suggest that, when used responsibly, these substances could offer a powerful tool for healing and personal transformation.
Yeah, particularly for conditions like depression and anxiety.
Right. There's growing evidence to support that claim.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that psilocybin, for example, can create these profound mystical experiences that lead to lasting reductions in depression and anxiety symptoms.
Yeah, it's thought to work by like disrupting negative thought patterns and promoting neuroplasticity,
Right.
allowing the brain to kind of rewire itself.
Yeah, it's like it gives the brain a fresh start,
Right, exactly.
a chance to break free from those old patterns.
I like these substances can help us break free from those rigid mental patterns that keep us stuck in our happy prisons.
Right. They can shake things up
Yeah,
and create the space for new insights and perspectives.
exactly.
New ways of being.
Right. But again, it's crucial to approach this with caution
Absolutely.
and prioritize safety and responsible use.
Always.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit, let's talk about global consciousness.
Okay.
It's a big one. And it's something that Dr. Newberg seems to believe is a real possibility.
Yeah, he's definitely open to the idea.
Yeah.
And, he bases this belief on the countless reports of interconnectedness and oneness that people experience during deep meditative states, mystical experiences, even near-death experiences.
Right. It's that feeling of being connected to something larger than ourselves.
Right.
A sense of unity with all things.
Exactly. And, I've had moments like that myself.
Yeah.
During meditation or even just being out in nature. It's
Yeah.
this feeling of awe and wonder,
Yeah.
a sense of being part of something vast and interconnected.
It's hard to describe,
It really is.
but it's definitely powerful.
It is. And Dr. Newberg suggests that these experiences, while subjective, might actually point to a deeper reality. He believes that neurotheology can help us explore this possibility
Yeah.
through both scientific and experiential methods.
It's like science and spirituality are coming together
Yeah.
to unravel the mysteries of consciousness,
Exactly.
and our place in the universe.
Yeah. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
Now, before we move on, I wanted to touch on one more thing that he emphasizes,
Okay.
the importance of rituals.
Rituals, yeah.
They're fascinating
They are.
because they're found across cultures and throughout history. They can be religious or secular or simple or elaborate, but they all serve a similar purpose.
Right. To create a sense of order, meaning, and connection.
I find it interesting how even small rituals,
Yeah.
like making my morning coffee or taking a walk in nature, can help me feel more grounded
Right.
and centered.
Yeah. It's like they create a pause in the chaos of daily life and allow you to reconnect with yourself and the world around you.
And Dr. Newberg points out that rituals actually have a profound impact on the brain.
Yeah.
They engage multiple senses, they activate the reward system,
Right.
and release feel-good chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin.
So it's not just about the symbolic meaning of the ritual,
Right.
but also the physiological effects it has on our brains and bodies.
Exactly. It's this combination of meaning and neurochemistry
Right.
that makes rituals so powerful.
They can help us regulate our emotions, reduce stress, enhance social bonding, and even create a sense of transcendence.
He even compares the rhythmic nature of rituals to the rhythmic activity of our brains.
Interesting.
It's like rituals help synchronize our internal rhythms with the rhythms of the world around us, bringing a sense of harmony and coherence.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And this idea of resonance is particularly interesting in the context of Dr. Newberg's research on those Brazilian channelers.
Oh, yeah.
Remember how their brains entered a state of decreased frontal lobe activity during automatic writing.
Like they were surrendering control,
Right.
allowing something else to flow through them.
Exactly. And Dr. Newberg suggests that the rituals they performed before and during the channeling sessions
Look.
might have helped them access that altered state of consciousness.
It's like the rituals created a bridge between their ordinary awareness and a more expansive receptive state.
It's like those rituals help them put on a different pair of glasses,
Yeah.
allowing them to see and experience reality in a new way.
Right. And this brings us back to that fundamental question.
Okay.
Are we simply altering our perception through these practices?
Right.
Or are we tapping into something more fundamental?
Yeah, something beyond our ordinary understanding.
Exactly.
It's a question that continues to fascinate and challenge us.
Yeah.
And as we delve deeper into neurotheology, we may discover even more surprising connections between our brains, our beliefs, and our experience of the world.
And that's what makes this so exciting.
It is.
You know, we're only just beginning to scratch the surface of what's possible.
Right. There's so much more to explore.
But before we get too carried away, let's take a pause here
Okay.
and come back for part 3, where we'll explore some practical takeaways from Dr. Newberg's work. Sounds good. And how we can apply these insights to our own lives.
I'm looking forward to it.
So welcome back to the final part of our deep dives into neurotheology.
Right.
We've covered a lot.
Yeah, we have.
You know, from the happy prison of the brain to the potential of psychedelics, the mysteries of global consciousness.
Right.
But now let's kind of bring it all home.
Okay.
What does this all mean for you, our listener?
Right.
How can you apply these, fascinating insights from Dr. Newberg's work to your own life and well-being?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
Right. It's like we've been exploring these big, mind-blowing concepts. But how do we actually integrate them into our daily lives?
Right. How do we make it practical?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the most practical takeaways, I think, from his research is the power of mindfulness practices,
Okay.
like meditation.
Right.
He showed us how even just 12 minutes a day of Kirtan Kriya meditation led to significant changes in brain activity.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing how much of an impact something as simple as meditation can have.
Right. Improving focus and memory, emotional regulation.
Yeah.
And it's not just Kirtan Kriya, right?
Right.
There are so many different types of meditation out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From mindfulness meditation to loving kindness meditation to walking meditation, there's something for everyone.
It's all about finding what resonates with you and making it a regular part of your routine.
Right. Just like, finding a workout routine that you enjoy and that you can stick with.
Exactly. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a huge time commitment.
No, not at all. Even a few minutes a day can make a difference.
Right.
It's like taking your mind to the gym. The more you practice, the stronger and more resilient your mind becomes.
Yeah. And it's interesting.
What's that?
He talks about how meditation isn't just about relaxation
Okay.
or stress reduction. It's also about cultivating a deeper understanding of ourselves.
Right.
And our place in the world.
Yeah, it's about becoming more self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
Aware of our thoughts, our emotions, our patterns of behavior.
Right.
And that self-awareness can help us make more conscious choices.
Yeah.
Respond to challenges with greater skill. And cultivate a sense of peace and well-being that comes from within.
I love that. It's about taking control of our inner world so that we can better navigate the outer world.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about finding that inner balance.
Right.
So that we can handle whatever life throws our way.
Exactly. And speaking of the outer world, he also highlights the importance of our social connections.
Right.
And the power of community.
Yeah, our relationships are so important.
Right. He points out that most spiritual traditions emphasize the importance of compassion, service to others, a sense of belonging.
Right. It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected. We're not meant to go through life alone.
It's a reminder that we're not meant to go through life alone.
Exactly.
We're wired for connection, and nurturing those relationships, finding ways to contribute to our communities, and simply being kind to one another can have a profound impact on our well-being.
Right. And the well-being of those around us.
Exactly. And he even suggests that these acts of kindness and compassion can actually change our brains for the better.
Interesting.
Activating those areas.
Okay.
Associated with empathy, reward, social bonding.
So it's like we're hardwired for love and connection.
Right. It's like
It's in our nature.
That's so beautiful.
It is.
And it brings us back to that idea of global consciousness.
Right.
Maybe it's not so far-fetched after all.
Maybe not.
You know, maybe by cultivating these qualities of compassion and empathy and interconnectedness within ourselves, we're actually contributing to a larger shift in consciousness.
Yeah, like a collective awakening.
A collective awakening.
Right.
It's a beautiful vision, isn't it?
It is.
And whether or not global consciousness is a real thing, the very act of striving for it,
Right.
of living with greater awareness and compassion and connection can make a world of difference in our own lives and the lives of those we touch.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
You have the power to change your brain, to cultivate greater well-being, and to contribute to a more compassionate and connected world.
That's a great message.
Right. It all starts with the choices you make each and every day. Choose to practice mindfulness, to nurture your relationships, to be kind to yourself and others, and to embrace the mystery and wonder of this incredible journey we call life.
Oh, beautifully said.
We hope you enjoyed this exploration of neurotheology. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to Mindful Health Harbor for more deep dives into the fascinating world of well-being. Until next time, take care and keep exploring.